And let's chip into managed instance and see what is managed instance first, and then we'll cover the topics that I'm going to cover in the past. So what is managed instance? First thing first. So what is MI? So as you know, till now we covered infrastructure as a service, means we have access to the operating system, to the underlying operating system, whether it is Linux or Windows. We have the access to the operating system. So we just covered SQL Server on virtual machines part. So this part is being done. So now we are moving to platform as a service. There is no such thing like software as a service for SQL. We have only infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. But few people, they call it as database as a service for MI and Azure SQL Database. And recently I came to know a new term for MI. They are calling this as instance as a service. No matter what the different names what you are hearing, it doesn't matter. So for me, it is IaaS and platform as a service. Only two terms, IaaS or PaaS. People they may call it with different names. Database as a service or instance as a service, doesn't matter. Officially, it is IaaS and platform as a service. So we are going to discuss about Azure Managed Instance. So how it is different from IaaS and how it is different from Azure SQL. So even in Azure SQL, we have many flavors. We have something called as a hyperscale. We have what is that? Another few two other things are there. I didn't touch Azure SQL yet. But when we go through Azure SQL, I will definitely go through all the different things that are available with Azure SQL. But for the moment, we are just going to deep dive on MI. So if you see here, the definition from Microsoft is best for modernizing the existing apps and highly compatible with SQL Server. Okay, so even though you don't have access to the operating system, the existing applications, whatever the existing applications, they can make use of MI, because there are many things that are there in MI which are not there in Azure SQL, but it looks exactly equivalent to our, uh, say, for example, if you take for few of the production servers will not have remote access. Imagine, because not imagination, because I've seen in few cases where they will not give us RDP access to the in even in on-prem environment. I'm talking about on-prem environment. So we are not used to get the remote access to those production environments if they are very critical. So they will just give access to SSMS. I mean to say, for the database engine. So we'll connect remotely from the jump box and we'll manage that SQL instance. Exactly in a similar fashion, MI works in a similar fashion. So you will not have access to the operating system and you will get almost all the features of SQL. There are few things that are missing on MI that we'll cover in a very in a deep manner, but that's keeping that aside. So I would like to conclude MI as a SQL instance that we are going to connect from a remote machine. So we don't have access to the operating system, and most of the things will work in MI. So we have jobs, we have linked servers, we have database mail, we have always on. When I say always on, we don't, I mean to say, we cannot configure it, but the underlying missions will make use of always on. And we have clustering, inbuilt clustering. I'll talk about that later, and many more things. So what are the things that are available on SQL? Most of the things are available on MI. There are few exceptions, but we'll talk about those exceptions later. So this is about MI, guys. So we are going to see a lot of contents on MI, and majorly my focus will be on migration, because MI, SQL, and VMs, whatever the case it is, nowadays people are going with migrations, right? So even if you're configuring for the first time, you have to migrate from your on-prem to any of these three flavors. So I am going to take an in-depth session on migration. So it will take at least 15 classes for me to complete migration. See, I'm saying 15 classes. So just imagine how deep it will be. Okay. So any questions till now? It's just an introduction. It's okay, fine. But if you have any questions, let me know. Okay. So I'm just moving on. So how it is compatible with SQL Server? So this is what they are coming up with. So these are the few differences and few exceptions what are there with MI. So it is pre-installed SQL. You cannot install SQL because we don't have access to the operating system, means it is being installed from the Microsoft, and there is an abstraction from the OS and the infrastructure. So till now we have been abstracted only from the infrastructure because we work with the VMs, but we have access to the operating system. But from now onwards, since we are going with PaaS, it's complete abstraction and we don't have access to the operating system and the infra. So it's the same engine. Again, it's the same engine like what we have on SQL, but if you fire select at the rate version, there will not be any version associated with it. That's why platform as a service is also called as versionless SQL service. Um, Keep this in your mind, guys. So if you run select at the rate version, it will give you something like Microsoft Azure RTM. In the brackets, they will say 12 point something. 12 point doesn't mean it is 2014. Okay, it is versionless. If you are working on MI or Azure SQL, it is completely versionless. Okay, so keep this in your mind. Don't get confused when it is showing 12 point something something. Okay, so almost all the T-SQL things, whatever that are there in on-prem, they're mostly compatible. And this is the link to see what are the differences if you have any. I didn't go through this because we are not developers for the moment. So we are just focusing on the other things. And fully managed service. So here the backups, the full backups, the log backups, everything will be backed up by, will be taken by Microsoft automatically. So it is completely fully managed service, and you don't need to worry about patches, Windows patches, because you don't have access to the operating system and Microsoft will take care of the patches. So this is a fully managed service. And luckily we have agent and database mail here, and we can configure replication. So I'm going to show you different scenarios with replication too. And we have resource governor and some other features like service broker, distributed transaction, linked servers, and blah, blah, blah. But only thing is it will not come up with SSRS, SSAS, or SSIS. But you can host the mission databases. Like say, for example, if you have SSRS databases, you can host it on MI. And if you have SSIS DB, you can host it on MI. That is possible. But it doesn't have the inbuilt features like what we have, like the other features, what we have like SSRS, AS, IS, it doesn't have. Okay, so you have to make use of other things for this. Say, for example, SSRS, Power BI, AS, some other thing. I think it is Azure Data Factory, or I'm not an expert, so I'm not sure. So for this, I think it is for SSIS. What is that? I forgot the name. SSIS equivalent. I think it is Azure Data Factory.
Integration services, SQL Server integration services.
Yeah, no, no, not about SSIS full term. So in Azure, this is equivalent to Azure Data Factory, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's correct.
yeah, ADF. I think this one is something I'm not getting the term in my mind. So we can leverage the other things with other features, but not with MI. So MI is only with DB engine. It doesn't deal with other features. That is one more difference. Okay, so we are going to see all these things. And when it comes to architecture, so I will explain about this architecture in depth in our classes, guys. So this is the real architecture, a very complicated architecture, and you have to understand many things here. So once you understand the underlying the architecture, it will be very easy for you to work with MI. So I will deal with this architecture in depth. And if you see, most of the things are tied up with some DNS things and some service fabric. They call it as service fabric here. Um, and you can create multiple instances in your MI, all these things. So I will come back to this slide later, and I will use this slide most of the times because I have to refer this to show you the underlying architecture. So I'm just skipping this slide, and I have to come back to other things and I will show you, and I will start the creation of MI. Okay. So for the MI creation, from now onwards, we have to, there will be a term called as service tiers. Okay, service tier. So when I'm creating the MI, you will come to know what is service tier. So we have two types of service tier: general purpose, they call it as GP in short terms, and the other one is business critical. So the one what I'm going to create is general purpose. So even when I worked for my previous company, so they had GP and as well as BC. The funny thing is they had some issue on GP. So they thought business critical will help them to mitigate that issue, but it didn't work at that time. They were thinking in a different direction and it didn't work. So I will tell you how GP works and how business critical works. So very important thing is I'm saying you, this is maybe I might talk very bluntly, but this is how it works. General purpose is equivalent to our failover clusters. I'm saying you again, general purpose is equivalent to our SQL Server failover clusters, and business critical is equivalent to our always on availability groups. That is the first definition. Keep this in your mind. And second thing is general purpose, the storage, I mean to say the data files and log files, they will be placed in a remote location. Okay, they are not in the same location. They will be placed in a remote location. Whereas in business critical, they will have the storage locally. So that's the difference. So since the storage is placed locally, business critical is faster. Whereas in general purpose, since our storage is placed remotely, it will be little slow. It will be little slow. It's not very slow. It is compared to BC, it will be little slow. So this is one of the main things that you have to keep in mind. Again, I'm repeating, general purpose will act something similar to failover cluster, whereas business critical will be something similar to our always on availability groups. At the beginning, I told you that we have features like failover cluster and always on. You cannot configure it. It's not possible for us to configure, but when we create the service tiers, that is how it works. So general purpose, it is something similar to um, failover clusters, whereas business critical is something similar to always on. So I think I have that architecture. Yeah, this is what it looks, general purpose. So if you see here, we'll be connecting to the primary replica. Don't get confused. The replica term, it's not always on. It's something similar to failover cluster. So if you see here, behaves like failover cluster instance. Okay, the storage, when I'm talking about storage, so this is the data and log files. Okay, so data and log files, they are not placed on the servers, they are placed remotely. They are placed remotely. And when it comes to backups, we have many types of backups, locally redundant backups, geo redundant, and geo zone redundant. There are many different types of backups. Forget about backups for a second. We have to focus only on data and log files. Where are my database files placed? So in case of general purpose, my data and log files are placed remotely. So why it is failover cluster? Because of this definition. Since they are placed remotely, for some reason, if this node goes down, the primary node, the secondary nodes are there, and they will take the control of that, and they will host our services. That's the logic, guys. So general purpose is something similar to failover cluster because the data and log files are placed remotely on a remote storage, and only one node will have the control. And if something goes wrong internally within the Microsoft, I mean to say within this VM, if something goes wrong, or even if you want to perform a failover, you don't need to perform failover, but if you want to test it out, you can do this. So when you perform failover, so this node will not have the control on these resources. The other nodes will take the control of this. So all these decisions will be made by service fabric. Failover decisions will be taken based on SQL and service fabric. We'll talk about service fabric later because again I have to come back to that architecture diagram to show you what is service fabric and all. Okay, so do you have any questions like general purpose, how it works? This is exactly equivalent to failover cluster.
Yeah, Vamsi, like how application will connect? Like in cluster, we are getting some virtual IP for SQL Server.
Yeah.
Is it that service fabric will provide any virtual IP, or how application will connect with the database?
So once we create the MI, okay. So see that is what you should understand. So once I create the MI, you will come to know. In MI, you will get one name, just like for our Azure SQL. So let me show you one thing. I have one Azure SQL at least, I guess. Yeah, if you see, this is my Azure SQL. This is not MI, guys. This is not Azure VM. This is Azure SQL. So this is the server name, right? azsrv10.database.windows.net. So in the similar terms, you will get some instance name. This is instance name. This is for Azure SQL. So for MI, you will get one instance name, and people will connect only to that instance name. But behind the scenes, this is the logic that works for general purpose. Okay, so you will get only one instance name. They will not show you all these things. These are things that happens behind the scenes, and it is internal to Microsoft. You will not have any control. Okay, so but I am trying to explain you how general purpose works. Before explaining this, I told you, right, a few days back we took some interviews for Australian position, and one of the guys, he said he has completed DP, what is that? DP 300, right? DP 300 or something, some certificate on Azure.
Yeah, it's 300 only, Azure
Okay.
Database Administrator.
So I asked this question. So I asked him, what is the difference between general purpose and business critical in terms of architecture? I clearly specified in terms of architecture. So he said, okay, general purpose is it will work for most of the workloads, and business critical, it is super fast, something that so he explained in general terms, but that is what I'm not looking at. I'm looking at something internally. When I'm saying internally, it is nothing but behind the scenes, general purpose is equivalent to our failover clusters. The only two things that if anyone asks you in interviews, just highlight these 2 points. General purpose, it is equivalent to our failover clusters. The main thing is storage. The database and log files are placed remotely. That is the first difference that you have to highlight. The database and log files are placed remotely. Okay, since they are placed remotely, okay, only one node can access it at a time, and if something happens to that node, so the failover decisions and all the logics behind the scene will be taken care by Microsoft itself with the help of some service fabric, but the other node will take the control of this storage, and it will help serve the customers. So this is behind the scenes, guys. So don't it is not possible for us to view how it works. Even if I create the MI, it is not possible for us to see all these things. Okay, but I will try to fail over, and I will show you how it works. Okay, so it is possible to fail over, and that too. um, Speaking internally, you can fail over only once in 30 minutes of time. It's not possible for you to carry out testings. Even if you're testing and if you want to fail over it multiple times, it is not possible. It will not allow you to fail over. It has to have at least 30 minutes of time between your failovers. Okay, there is no need for us to fail over. Okay, this is not infrastructure as a service. This is platform as a service. So you don't have control. You have there are many things that are streamlined. So it's not possible for us to perform failovers in real time. Just for understanding sake, we can perform failover and see how it works. Okay, so this is very different, guys. Any questions? Because there will be plenty of questions. See, I took at least 15 days to understand many different things. Okay, so I have so many questions in my mind. If you have questions, please be free. And even if it is a silly question, it's absolutely fine. So we are learning, and this is the best time for you to ask me the questions. Got it with general purpose architecture wise? Just 2 points.
Yeah, architecture wise it is clear, but once we are configure, once you will configure,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah.
So later we'll come to know a lot of things.
Yeah, that's obvious case. So just keep this in your mind, and we'll talk about this later. But I'm just showing you, I'm just explaining you about service tier, how it works for general purpose and business critical. And when it comes to business critical, it is similar to always on. Okay, it is similar to always on. If you see here, I have my primary replica, and internally they have built 4 replicas. I mean, say leaving out the primary, they have 3 replicas. 3 secondary replicas automatically gets created. Okay, in total there are 4. In total there are 4. And here the storage, when I'm talking about the storage, if you see here the storage, the data files and log files are within the server, along with the server. The primary replica is having its data and log files locally, just like secondary. If I take the general purpose, if you see, only temp db is there locally, but not the data and log files. They are placed remotely. But in case of business critical, the data and log files are placed locally. And here it is a concept of availability groups. Okay, and this is extremely fast. Believe me, when I worked for business critical, the latency is almost very minimal. It's super fast. And the thing is that since the files are placed locally, it is fast. That is the difference. And second thing is, if you opt for business critical, you can make use of reporting purpose. You can make use of any replica for reporting purpose. It is possible. Just like in our on-prem, when we configure the routing, we can redirect our traffic, right? The reporting queries or read-only queries to the secondary replicas. In the similar fashion, you can make use of it. This is again internal. And the only thing is, you can ask your customers to pass, there is something called as updatability, something to check. I will update you later. I will show you this is possible for us to see. well, I mean to say internally it is not possible, but I will show you a few queries so that you can check in your offices, at your offices. You can see if you have any MI in your offices, you can check this. I will pass on few queries. You can check this and come back to me. The main thing, the main difference between GP and BC is GP is failover cluster. The storage is available remotely. BC is always on availability group with the storage availability within the server. And for BC, it supports in-memory OLTP that is there, and GP doesn't support in-memory OLTP. And second thing is BC supports report. I mean to say, what is that? Uh, read-only replicas. Read-only replica is there. You can use it for reporting purposes. These are the few differences. Got it? Of course, I will now create the MI and let's see how it works. But I just wanted to show you what is the GP and what is BC internally. In our classes,
Vamsi,
we'll see. Yeah.
Vamsi, in general purpose also we have replicas, correct? There are three replicas.
It's not replicas. It's the spare nodes. If you see here, nodes with spare capacity. Okay, these are not exactly replicas. So they will take the control of this storage if something goes wrong with primary. Okay, this is a
So,
spare nodes, like spare parts. Just like your in your car, you will have the extra tire, right?
oh,
Similar to that, we
oh,
have extra nodes sitting and watching ideally. If something goes wrong, this guy, whatever the VM that is free, it will take the ownership and it will have the control on this storage. Whereas in BC, the storage is available locally. So that's the reason this is always on. And
locally means there is no windows, correct? Then how can we say it is locally?
this is all internal architecture. So you cannot see
Sorry.
this. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
See, whatever the question is, it's absolutely fine. You are allowed to ask any questions, but what I'm trying to convey is this is internal architecture. Okay, keep this in your mind. And if someone asks you how it works internally, this is how it
oh,
works. Just 2 points, just very two points only. General purpose, failover cluster. BC, always on availability groups. General purpose, remote storage. BC, local storage. Just these 2 points are good enough.
okay.
Okay, so there are many things. And um, so just a question, guys. Have you ever done migration from on-prem to MI?
No, I might believe the
Not yet, right?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to, there are many things lined up. So I'll just touch base those things that I'm going to touch. It's very interesting. I'm just looking forward to, go through all these scenarios. First thing first, they have introduced something called as, it's a new feature in 2022, where you can create always on. When I say always on, it's not always on internally, a kind of always on. It's like distributed always on. So I'm going to create a kind of always on between 22 SQL and our managed instance. And for the very first time, again, I'm repeating this statement. And for the very first time, we can fail over and fail back. Till now, it is only possible for us to fail over. Okay, there is no failback option. But in 2022, when you want to migrate your databases, or even if you want to act your Azure managed instance as a kind of secondary replica, you can do this. And even the failback option is possible. So this is a very exciting future in 2022. I will show you this. I will create one 2022 mission and I will create the MI and I'll show you how it works. This is one thing that I'm going to talk in our classes. Even I have not performed this, so I have to perform all these things. And second thing, I'm going to touch base the migration part. So migration part, I'm going to show you n number of scenarios. Believe me, there are so many scenarios that I'm going to touch. And if you see here, this is just an outline, but I'm going to cover all these things. There are so many things that I want to cover. So I will cover all these things. So one is with Azure Data Studio. The other one is with Azure DMS. And the last one is with log replay service. And the final one is with link feature in managed instance. So there are a number of things. So you have to be very sure with the topics that you want to, with the tools that you want to make use of. Okay, so I'm very excited, but I'm just holding my breath. So let's come back to our MI creation and then I will discuss about this part. And if there is anything, see, this is what I want to show you. So MI, So VMs, this is full control on the operating system. So this is on VMs, for this is for MI, and this is for Azure database. So this is all being supported on MI, and these features are not there on our Azure SQL. Okay, so I'll just share this PDFs and PPTs what I have. So let's first create the MI, and it will take 4 hours, guys. So once we create this, I have to wait for 4 hours. And let's go now, and let's go to home, and let's create our first MI. I can do this myself, but I thought of showing this with you so that it will be exciting. It is an exciting thing for me, so I would just wanted to show you that excitement what I have now. Azure Managed Instance, right? Okay, let's create like this. I wanted to show you one small thing. Azure SQL create. If you see here, even in the first page, when you click on Azure SQL, we have 3 options, right? SQL Virtual Machines, SQL Managed Instance, SQL Databases. And if you just click on Show Details, it is clearly mentioning what are the things that are possible with these 3 different flavors what we have in Azure for SQL. Okay, this is also a great thing by Microsoft. They are clearly mentioning what are the things that we can make use of. So this is for SQL database, and this is for managed instance. See, for managed instance, again, we have single instance and Azure Arc. This is again a new feature. I didn't explore anything on Azure Arc yet. So if time permits, I will try to do this. If not, I cannot. It's very interesting topic, but I have not done anything on this. So I cannot guarantee you this. And finally, this thing is virtual machines, what we covered till now. So I'm picking manage instance. So let's create the manage instance first. Let's click on create. And just like our Azure SQL, it will ask for the resource group, the manage instance name, the region, the storage, everything. So I will create one new resource group. From today onwards, I will make use of this resource group for manage instance. So I'm sorry, Azure MI. This is our resource group, and manage instance name, let's give this as Azure MI. Definitely it will be news. Azure MI. Can you pass on one good name for me? Azure MI production. Let's keep this. Azure MI production is the name what I am passing for managed instance. Okay, and the region, since I am located in Ireland, for me the closest region is not Europe. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. The storage part. If you see here, I have 2 types of architectures, service tiers. One is general purpose. It is equivalent to failover cluster, and the other one is business critical. And the thing is here, since we don't have operating system, so definitely there should be a question in your mind. What will be the memory that I will get here, right? How about CPU configuration? How about memory configuration? How about storage configuration? 3 things that definitely should shoot up in your mind. So if I go with general purpose, okay, and if you see here, the V cores, and this is nothing but the amount of CPU cores. So if I go with 8, the memory, it is showing something like am I getting memory? It's not showing memory, but here if you select the um, hardware generation, till now we have generation 5, but recently they added this, guys. It was not there prior when I worked with my company, previous my company. It was not, these options are not there. Premium series and premium series memory optimize was not there. They added it recently, these 2 options. And one V core is equivalent to 5.1 GB of RAM. Means if I take 8 V cores, so what will it be? 8 into 5.1. 8 into 5.1. Oh, sorry. 8 into 5.1. So it is 40.8 GB of RAM what you will get. Okay, so 1 V core is equivalent to 5.1 GB of RAM. So this is the calculation for RAM here. Okay, when I select with other series, these are the new series that were introduced, and these are memory based applications. So if there are 2 types of applications, right? One is CPU bound and the other one is IO bound. So if your applications are making use of memory optimized or maybe more IO driven, so you can choose the other series. So if you choose the other series, see this one V core is equivalent to 7 GB of RAM. So if I go with 8 V cores, it is 8 into 7, 56 GB of RAM. And here it is 13.6 GB of RAM. So they are increasing the capacity of the RAM when we choose the relevant generation, hardware generation. So these two are new series. Even I didn't work on these two series. These are recently introduced. So till now, previously they were having only generation 4 and generation 5. It's only generation 4 and generation 5. They removed generation 4 and we were having only generation 5. But I think maybe 6 months back, they came up with premium series and premium series optimized, memory optimized. So we are not going to deal with those two. And if you see here again, for standard series, the storage capacity at max is, let's go see, is 8 GB, sorry, 8 terabytes, right? For standard series general purpose, it is 8 terabytes. Whereas if I go with premium series, it's again 8 terabytes. And if I go with the premium series memory optimized, and again the maximum is 8 terabytes. I think in the slides they have mentioned 16 terabytes. Let's see this. I think I have to
No, just
increase.
full week or increase the week course.
I increase the vCore, but storage remains okay. So you have to increase
Yes.
the vCores also. Let's do it for standard series. I think okay. Even I have
Four.
go, even if I go with the general purpose max is 16 terabytes, guys. Whereas for business critical standard series, it is 4 terabytes. This is what I worked previously. Okay, so when I worked on my previous work with previous company, the general purpose maximum capacity is 16 terabytes, whereas for business critical it was 4 terabytes. But now if I choose with another series for business critical, it is max 5.6 terabytes, whereas I think for premium series they increased it to 16 terabytes. Let's see this. Yeah, so recently they introduced this option for business critical also. They increased the capacity to 16 terabytes. Let's go to that slide just once. uh, where is that? Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, 16 terabytes in preview. So usually it was 4 terabytes, but now they increased it to 16 terabytes even for business critical. So let's go with general purpose. And did you get the points here? One is service tier, general purpose and business critical. The second one is hardware generation. We have 3 different types now, but previously it was just one, generation 5. So for every vCore, it is 5.1 GB of RAM for standard series, generation 5. And for the other series, it is 7 and 13.6. So that is how the memory is being calculated. For now, I'm going with standard series and I'm going with just 4 vCores, and that too with 32 GB of RAM. And for that only I'm getting $745 per month. Okay, so I'm okay with this. So I will keep this for the entire month because we have to do so many things. So this will remains the same, general purpose. And if I go with business critical, let's see how much would it cost. It is 2000, guys, because underlying we are making use of 4 replicas, right? So the cost will be more, and the storage is local, so it will be the cost will be definitely more for BC. So for the moment I'm going with general purpose standard series generation 5 with 4 vCores and 32 GB of RAM storage, sorry, 32 GB of storage. And my RAM will be 4 into 5.1, so it will be 20.4 GB of RAM. So these are the backups. See, the beauty of the backups is we have three options: geo redundant, zone redundant, and locally redundant. So if you go with geo redundant, means your backups are being shipped to another region. Just like in our on-premises, if you want to configure this option, you will go with log shipping, right? Log shipping or some other thing where you will configure the log shipping across the data center regions. So here your backups are placed remotely, so you are super safe. Okay, there will be no problem with your backups if you choose this option. We don't have such facility now, so since I am paying for my account, so I am using locally redundant backup storage. I have to choose at least one. I cannot skip this, so I am going with locally redundant. But in real time, it's always best to go with zero redundant. And in real time, based upon your applications, you have to choose the vCores and your capacity. So since we are doing this for testing purpose, I'm choosing the minimal configuration, but in real time, based on your needs, you have to pick the vCores, and you have to pick the right series, and you have to pick the storage. Okay, I don't have license, so I cannot tick these options, but if you have licenses for your on-prem environment, you can make use of this. See, if I click on this, definitely see the cost, it got reduced from 745 to 453. They reduced the price very much. So we don't have that option. Or even if you have software assurance with your licenses, what you have in on-prem, you can make use of it by clicking on this. I don't have such a facility, so I'm not going to click on this. So this is what this page talks about. Any questions with respect to this page? No problem. If you
No,
have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we can skip this and click on apply. So let me double check. General purpose 4 vCores. This is the minimal. I cannot reduce this. 4 vCores is the base minimum, and the minimum storage is 32 GB. Click on apply. And now we have authentication. So how to talk about Azure authentication as well, which we didn't cover in our classes. So, but for the moment, I'm choosing SQL authentication, but definitely I will show you Azure Active Directory and authentication, how it works. So this is my promise, guys. It is very tricky topic, but I want to cover that because it's not just about SQL. Um, you have to understand how it works internally with Azure authentication. Sorry, Azure authentication also. So I'll show you that part. For the moment, I'm skipping this. I'm going to use of SQL authentication, and I'm just passing account for it. 1 second. How many you remember that when we discussed about private endpoints, there's one thing I was not able to configure. It is 16 characters, right? So I just passed 12. Uh, let's see. Okay, still it is not accepting. Is it same? No. Oh, 14 again. Oh my God. Remember this password. Okay, when we were talking about Azure private endpoints, remember, did you, anyone about private endpoints when we discussed? Okay, I think you are. Who are there? Just I wanted to see. Gopi, Manju, you are not there. Maruti, you just joined. It's not possible for you. When I was discussing about private endpoints, I was not able to show you um, from my on-prem environment. When I say when about on-prem environment, I mean to say from my Azure virtual machines. Okay, from my virtual machines. Let me open this. So this is my domain controller. This is on-prem and node 2, right? So when I'm trying to access the Azure SQL from my on-prem SQL without internet, okay, without internet, I was not able to access this with the private endpoint. So I will discuss about this private endpoint again in our classes, and I'll show you in depth how the private endpoint works. This is very important, guys. So these topics you'll never get these topics from anyone, I'm sure, because these are very difficult to implement, and you have to have some understanding with respect to AD and all. So I'll try to configure this, and if you are not able to understand, at least get the concept and keep that with you. Okay, so there are many things, so especially about the private endpoints. And I think I tried from my local laptop, it worked, but from this machine it didn't work. So I will show you this part, and I'm working on that part. Let's keep this aside. We have to explore the same thing for Azure MI also. Okay, so I will tell you, I will come back to this topic slowly now. First page is fine, right? Resource group and manage instance name, region, compute and storage, authentication part. So now let's go to networking, and here there are few things that you have to understand, and after this there are nothing else. So it's just the networking part. Once we finish this, we are done. So let's do one thing. Take another session. How to show you how to compare this. That's the reason. Azure SQL. Let's create one Azure SQL first. This is Azure SQL, guys. This is not Azure MI. And I want to show you the differences when it comes to networking. See here. Are you seeing virtual network or subnet for for Azure SQL? From where I'm getting the screen. Guys, can you please unmute and talk to me? This is a
Yes, yes.
yeah. So if you see here, Azure MI is asking for virtual network, but Azure SQL is not having any option like virtual network. Notice that point. Let me
Okay.
open another thing also. You have to understand so many things. Let's wait 1 second. I will open one more session. I will show you
Virtual machines.
virtual machine. So there you will get virtual network again. Okay, let's take some image, something. Maybe we'll take this, create. Let's go to networking. See, it is asking for virtual network for virtual machine. It is asking for virtual network for MI, but virtual network is not there for Azure SQL. So first tab is for MI, second tab is for Azure SQL, third tab is for Azure VM. For VMs, till now we have seen what is virtual network and where I placed my virtual network. All these things you are very much aware. Definitely you
Yes.
need virtual network for virtual machines, but it is not applicable for Azure SQL, whereas it is applicable for MI. So you need a virtual network or subnet for MI. And there is a very important thing associated with this topic, guys. So when I am explaining in our classes from 15th, so I will talk about this networking part. Very, very important things that you have to understand. And for the now, I'm just going with the defaults, but just you have to have your question in your mind. What if I choose one of the virtual networks that are currently available? Will it allow me to choose that network or not? Right? Did you get your question? Imagine in
Yeah.
real time, you have to create managed instance. Okay. There are few virtual networks that are available. Can you make use of existing virtual networks to create the managed instance or to place your managed instance? Is it possible or not? That is the question that should come to our mind. Here I'm choosing new virtual network. So obviously it will create a new virtual network for me and a subnet for me and everything. But if I drop down this, if you see here, uh, it is saying already I'm having sorry, it is saying it is already in use for some virtual network by name Azure AD and MI instance and MI new VNet. So it is not allowing me to choose that existing virtual networks, right? So it is only
Okay.
helping me to create a new virtual network along with the subnet. So my question is, what if I want to make use of existing virtual networks? Would it be possible? That is the first question that should come to our mind, right?
Already
Why? Yeah.
available. You cannot select it as well.
So let's see this. Let's open this virtual under window and let's try to create one virtual network without placing any resources. Okay, it's just a dummy virtual network that I'm going to create. It will not take much time. Create new. Okay. Um, any resource is group, fine. So let's create a new virtual network. Testing virtual network.
I testing.
Testing. Let's say testing virtual network. That's the name. And next IP address. Let's keep this. It's okay. Defaults is fine. I'm just creating a virtual network. That's it. My question is, will it take this network? I mean, will it make use of this network that I'm going to create? Okay, it's got created. Let's go. Okay, now go to the VM. And here I cannot refresh, I think. Let's go to the previous and now go to the network. And if you see, it's not picking. Let's refresh this from here. This is the problem. Again, I have to choose. 1 second, guys. Azure MI. Okay, my instance. Azure MI prod. Okay, and again, guys, so all the platform as a services, you should use lowercase letters. Your server name can contain only lowercase letters, numbers, and hyphens, and it cannot have more than 63 characters in length. Okay, so I have to pass on only lowercase letters, Azure MI prod,
From
and North Europe. It is North Europe.
above.
Oh, sorry. um, I have to choose this again. I'm very sorry, but I want to show you that part. There are few things that are important. So 432 local. Okay, apply. This is fine. Okay, again I have to pass. This is 16 characters in length. Uh, very lengthy password. Even I will forgot, I think.
Login name the same name or you can reduce.
We can adjust. I want just one C because I will never use this. Okay, networking. Now let's go to networking and see if this, see, this is saying other is ready. If you see other, I'm getting the testing VNet, whatever what I have
Other.
created. Okay, so if I place some resource inside this VNet, then
It
my,
won't
my
stop.
MI will not accept. Okay, if it is empty VNet, definitely it will accept. But if you have any resource just like this, it will not accept. Okay, and how to make use of that? I mean, there is one option that we can try out, but I'm not going to talk about that option because it is more advanced. I'm keeping that aside. So if I want, I can make use of this. It will definitely allow, but there are a few things that I have to configure. So that's why I don't want to take any risk. So I'm going with VNet and Azure MI thing. And once I create this managed instance, guys, there are so many things that got created automatically. It's a big cluster that is going to get formed. Virtual network, sorry, when once MI gets created, a very big cluster is going to form. There are so many things, there are so many network security groups that gets created, so many user defined routing tables that gets created. So I will show you once I create this MI. So it will take 4 hours. And so that's the reason I'm not going to take this risk. I'm not choosing this. I'm just going with the defaults. But if you want to manage this in real time, it's not just about creation, guys. You have to understand user defined routings, network security groups, and other things as well. So let me first create with the basics first. And if everything works as expected, then we can think about the other parts. Okay, we can try our with the user defined, like we want to create our own VNet and we want to create our own user defined routing tables and NSGs, and we can try that, but it is more advanced. So I don't want to take that risk. So I'm going with the defaults. And connection type, proxy, and redirect. I'll talk about this. It's very simple. I have few scenarios lined up on this proxy and redirect, just like what we discussed with always on. I will block some ports and see if that works or not. So just going with proxy as a default thing. Public endpoint. This is not. I'm not going to enable. So I should not enable the public endpoint in real time. But for my practice purpose, I'm enabling this and I'm keeping this as accessible from Azure services or from internet or no access. So for the moment, I'm just saying enable the public endpoint. Let's keep this aside. I'm going to talk a lot about public endpoint and connection type. Don't worry, guys. So these topics I will make you understand definitely. And this is the TLS version. So let's go with the default. I don't have any applications that are with backwards TLS compatibility. So this is the minimal compatibility 1.0, 1.1, and 1.2. Okay, so I'm not going to make use of any defender is nothing but if my instance is being accessed by someone, I will get alerts, I will get notified. Okay, so it's kind of if anyone is trying to attack, maybe using brute force approach or spoofing or something like that, if I enable this, it will alert me. So my instance is not being accessed by anyone, so I'm not going to enable this. Identity, I didn't work on this, guys. Let me be open with you. I didn't work on this, so I have to check this, how it works with SQL. Is there anything that we can do with identity? I'll check this later. And these are the, I'm leaving these two things aside because I didn't work on the Azure Active Directory and these things. The only thing what I can say you is if you have Windows authentication in your environment, say for example Infosys/Ramesh, and he want to access using that credential to MI, it is possible now. Okay, you don't need any separate account again. You can make use of the same account, and you can try to access them. It is possible now. That's all. That's also a new feature. So this is what they are talking about. Use service principal to enable Windows authentication for Azure Active Directory principles. Okay, so this is an enhanced topic. I'm just keeping this aside. I don't want to talk about this now. These two things, let's keep this aside. And this is about TDE. And when it comes to TDE, guys, by default, whatever the databases that what you create in MI, it will have TDE enabled. Okay, so if you have your own keys, you can get it, and you can rotate your keys automatically. I'm just going with default here. So there are few things that I have not covered. This is not our class. I'm just showing you the things that gets created with MI. Okay, so don't worry about now. And we can choose the collation in just like in Azure SQL. Also, we can choose the collation in MI. Also, it is possible. But in Azure SQL, you cannot choose the time zone. But here we can select the time zone as well. So it is possible to select the time zone. I'm just leaving this with the defaults. And geo replication. This is about auto failure groups guides. So I will explain you when I'm talking about HA and DR for MI. So this is for DR purpose, geo replication. Maintenance window. If I choose maintenance window, it doesn't mean that my system will not be available during this window. It's just a maintenance thing that carries out from Microsoft end. But maybe I think when I went through the documentation, they said there will be a network glitch for few seconds. Okay, so I'll just go with the defaults. Any questions till now? I know I didn't discuss about proxy, and I didn't discuss about network security groups and user defined routings and all those things. Just wanted to show you how MI looks like, and I just wanted to create along with you. That's the only thing. Once I click create, it will get created. Tags, it's useful in real time. You have to create tags, and then finally review and create. Any questions before I click on review and create?
Vamsi, if you are creating a geo application, so will it create another server or how it is?
Yeah, it will create another what can I say, another cluster in another data center, and the databases will get replicated to that part, and it will be of more cost also, I guess. I didn't check the geo replication part yet, but it will create another MI. I mean to say another cluster. MI is nothing but a kind of cluster, guys. Internally, that's what I understood. Another server. In layman terms, I should say another server. Yes.
Okay.
I'm just wondering the bill that I'm going to get. It's okay. Let's hopefully it should be within 1,000. Okay, I'm clicking on review and create. So it just started. So it will take 4 hours for its completion. A minimal time. It might go up to 6 hours also. It depends. So once it gets created, I will show you what are the things that gets deployed. Okay, so and I
And
wanted
we
to show.
cannot start and stop the services, correct?
Yeah, it's not possible to stop and start the services. It is not possible to make the database offline. It's not possible for you to place your database files in the locations. It's because you don't have control on the underlying operating system. You cannot, for example, I will tell you one scenario what I got. My 10 DB got full almost in MI, and I have to restart the MI for it to work because the free proc cache and all, it didn't work. So the only option is we have to restart the instance, but but there is no such option in MI. So what should I do in those scenarios?
So we need to change the service type.
I cannot, because see, in real time, this is my test system. I can do whatever and what I want, but in real time, it's not possible. So just keep this in your mind, guys. When you are working with MI as a DBA, you have to pre-configure or pre-allocate your sizes. For example, uh, let's say if it is of 1 terabyte, okay, just an vague example. So if it is 1 terabyte of size for 10 DB, restrict that to 800 GB so that it should not go beyond that capacity. Okay, if it grows, if you keep it with auto growth, it will completely eat up your disk capacity, and it is not possible for you to restart it. Okay, so you have to follow the best practices. There are some best practices for 10 DB on Azure MI, so we have to keep that in your mind. So after that incident, we came to know that it is not possible to restart the MI and all, because we were very new at that time, and we didn't got any training. So even I was absolutely clueless at that time. So later I realized, okay, it's not possible to restart or draw, keeping the database offline and those things. Okay, and now when it comes to migration, I'll just talk about migration and I'll wind off. Guys, for migration, Azure migration, I think there is AKMS database migration. So this is the migration guide. Okay, and these are all the different scenarios what we have for SQL. Okay, in SQL itself, there are a number of things, and if possible, I can drive from Oracle to SQL because I know a bit about Oracle, so I can drive this if possible. But we have to focus mostly on SQL for the moment because in SQL itself, there are so many things. And let me go to one such scenario. How many of you are aware of different scenarios what we have in from migration standpoint? Any idea? Let me show you the things. Azure Data Studio offline online migration.
Azure Data Studio 1 and DMA is on the migration as well. They have given option and DMS service for pay as you go. 3 options and backup and restore deploying the databases. 4
Okay.
options.
Okay, so in our migration, I'm going to touch base about 1 second. Where is that? Yeah, so these are all the different scenarios what we have. On the top, if you see, we have Azure Migrate. Okay, so this is for the entire one migration. So even if you have web servers and other servers and you want to migrate that, you can make use of Azure Migrate. So I cannot show you this in our lab setup because I don't have such a big environment to show you how Azure Migrate works. But in real time, I am stressing again, if anyone asks you for the migration, the best thing to start from is Azure Migrate. Okay, it's not just for SQL, guys. Again, I'm repeating, this is not just for SQL. This is for all the different kinds of VMs what you have. Even if you have Windows laptops, you can make use of Azure Migrate. It's like what they say, one-stop store, one-shop store. What is that? One-stop. Oh God.
One-stop store.
One
One
stops. That is the thing. So it is a central repository where you can do anything, any kind of migration. If you want to migrate SQL, if you want to migrate Windows laptops and web servers or any other
VMs.
VMs, whatever it is, this is the best place to start Azure Migrate. But since we don't have such setup, so I cannot show you this part. But in real time, I'm stressing you again. This is the thing that you have to keep your focus with. Okay, and then comes our SQL parts. We have DMA and we have Azure Data Studio, and we have DMS, and restore from the backup is possible from on-prem to Azure MI, but not with Azure SQL. You cannot restore a database onto Azure SQL, but backup and restore is possible from virtual machines to MI. I mean to say on-prem or from Azure VMs, we can restore via backups. We have DMS, we have log replay service, and we have inline with Azure Data Studio. I don't know about this option. I'm maybe some extra option. I don't know. Think about this feature, guys. There is one more feature called as link feature in managed instance. I will talk about this now in a few seconds. And we have replication, BCP, backpack, and these are all the different migration scenarios what we have. And believe me, with all the different scenarios what we have, there are so many things that we need to configure. So after going through all these scenarios, I realized there are so many things that we need to configure. And this is the architecture when it comes to migration with Azure Data Studio, guys. This is the architecture from Microsoft. If you see here, have you observed these terms? Self-hosted integration runtime and many things. So I was just practicing this part, self-hosted integration runtime. what was this about? So I was just confused, and later I realized it is integrated with Azure Data Factory. Okay, so this migration, what I'm going to show you, it is like end to end. And if you learn this migration approach, whatever the scenario is in your real time, in your at your offices, you will just crack that very easily. So I'm going to show you end to end with offline from Azure Data Studio, and DMS offline and online. And imagine a scenario, guys. Imagine a scenario where you don't have site-to-site connectivity from on-prem to Azure, and still you want to migrate your databases. Would it be possible to do?
Yes.
See, my Apple phone got activated. Did I say hey Siri? No, right? One second, guys. It's playing the music. One second. Devices are crazy. Okay. So imagine a scenario where you don't have um, access to the internet. In your on-prem, you will not have access to the internet, right? And there is no site-to-site also. Okay, there is no site-to-site. Again, I'm repeating, there is no site-to-site connectivity between your on-prem and on-prem and Azure, and you don't have access to the internet. And is it possible for you to migrate in such case? So first of all, let's do this like this. Not bad. Let's try with some few scenarios. So first thing is from on-prem. From on-prem, what are the things what you have? From on-prem, you have to migrate it to Azure VM, right? Azure VM. This is what will be the approach in your case. In this case, Azure VM. You know
Can
now.
take the back into Azure SQL, your storage in storage there. From there, we can lift and shift the backups.
Okay, that is one option with Azure VMs. What are the other things? Can we configure always on between on-prem and Azure VMs? I'm
Log,
talking about.
log shipping also we can.
Yeah, log shipping is one more thing. Is it? See, I'm having no downtime at all. Okay, it's very limited downtime what I got from my uh, heads. So what will you do in that case? You are on. See, again, there are so many things. As I said, when you are doing it from on-prem, just keep this in your mind, guys. Always think about the source versions. So anything from 2016 is one story, and anything less than 2016 is another story. Okay, just another 2 points that you have to keep in mind, because from 2016 we have distributed availability groups. So if that is the case, your direction should be in a different manner. Okay, don't again say the easiest paths like replication or log shipping or backup restore. No, your approach should be something different. Okay, so even if you are driving it from on-prem to Azure VMs, where everything is being supported, if you are on 2016, just think about distributed availability groups. Okay, that is the best approach. And if you are less than 2016, then we can think about other scenarios like what you said. Maybe backup to URL is one. I mean, backup to storage. URL means storage. That is one thing. And we can think about log shipping and maybe some other techniques. Okay, so my question here is, even in on-prem to Azure VM, okay, for all these things to work, what you need? Definitely you need connectivity between on-prem machine and Azure VM, right? There should be
Yes.
connectivity. Connectivity will happen in real time, either with site to site VPN or with express route. These are the two things that will work in real time. My question is, we don't have connectivity from on-prem to Azure. So in such case, will it be possible for us to migrate the database from on-prem to from on-prem to Azure VM? Would it be possible?
No, without connectivity, how will migrate?
Right?
We need
So
to establish some connection.
definitely, that's what we think. But there is one different case where I just learned recently. Let me show you that part. See, this will take 4 hours. So I started it at 11:14, right? I will just mark this and I will show you when it gets completed. Um, I don't have SQL here. Otherwise, I could have shown you straight away. Okay, let's go to DMS. Okay, and click on this create. Okay, and this is the source. Source is on SQL, but I'm not going to touch the other things for the moment. Let's talk about SQL first. You can think about later. And the target server type, we have Azure SQL VM, Azure Managed Instance, Azure SQL, right? So for the moment, let's select Azure SQL Database for a moment, just for a moment, and click on select. Okay, and see about the service mode here. Service mode, we have Azure and something called as hybrid preview. Okay, hybrid in preview, and in the bottom line, they have mentioned all the migration activities are run from on-premises machine. What does it mean?
So we need to implement on-premises itself.
From on-premises. So when they are saying from on-premises, what we need to implement, how can we implement this, right? There are many questions. So after reading this Azure hybrid preview, let me show you that. And guys, when I'm talking about Azure Data Studio, it works only for VMs and MI. It doesn't work for Azure SQL. So there are many things, guys. So few options will work only for few things. Few doesn't work, few doesn't support online migrations, few doesn't support offline migration, few doesn't support Azure VMs, few doesn't support Azure MI, few doesn't support Azure SQL. So there are n number of combinations, n number of permutations and combinations. So I have to come up with one good solution for the different scenarios. Okay, for example, Azure Data Studio doesn't support Azure SQL. It supports only Azure MI and Azure VMs. So like this, there are so many things. So we have to identify the scenarios and we have to come up with the right solutions. This is what I'm saying. It's a very daunting topic. If I have to cover every migration scenario, it will take at least 20 days for me to cover all the different scenarios what we have in migration. That's the reason I didn't show anything with respect to migration in my infrastructure as a service classes, because this is such a big topic. Okay, so I just kept it aside. So now I'll show you Azure DMS hybrid, right? Azure DMS hybrid on premises. I'm just opening the Microsoft Docs. I don't have any other docs to show you. If you see here, create a hybrid mode for migration, and these are the supported scenarios. Azure DMS, Azure DMS. We are talking about Azure DMS here. Okay, these are all the different tools what we have, guys. So don't get worried now. I will show you right from the scratch what is DMA, what is DMS, what is Azure Data Studio, and how to migrate it from SSMS, online, offline, everything will be covered. So don't don't stress yourself for the moment. So it is saying currently Azure Database Migration Service running in hybrid mode. I'm talking about a different mode altogether. Running in hybrid mode supports the SQL Server migrations to two scenarios. We are not worried about Mongo, so we are worried about SQL. Azure SQL Managed Instance with near zero downtime online, and Azure SQL Database Managed single database with some downtime. Means this is Azure SQL, this is Azure MI, and this doesn't support Azure VMs. Okay, so like this, that's what I'm saying. So in every case, it is getting changed. It's not equivalent. Someone was asking me some question. Go ahead.
No question, Vamshi. I need to wind up the call. I have some
Okay,
client
okay,
call.
okay. Go ahead.
Please
I'm
carry
even
on.
yeah. Thank you. Even
Thank
I'm
you.
going to. So read this only one line, and I'll stop this class. You use Azure portal to create an instance of Azure database migration service in hybrid mode. This is what they are talking. Azure database migration service in hybrid preview mode. Okay, and then see this. Afterwards, you will download and install some hybrid worker in your on-premises network. During preview, you can use Azure database service hybrid mode to migrate from on-premises to Azure SQL. There is one thing, you don't need connectivity, guys. So this is what a different story I'm talking about. You don't need any connectivity from your on-prem to what is that, from to Azure, and still you will be able to migrate the database. That is possible. Okay, that is possible. This I came to know recently and was absolutely what is that again? I don't know the words. I got surprised to see this. You don't need any connectivity from MI. If you want to migrate any database from on-prem to MI, you don't need any connectivity. It's possible, still possible. So I will try this option and I will show you how it works. Okay, and as I said, Azure Data Studio, Azure DMS, Azure Data Mode Hybrid, and what are the other tools? Okay, one last thing I want to talk about, and I'll complete this. Do you know anything about this feature? It's a very new feature again, link feature for managed instance. Okay, imagine you are in on-prem. Okay, I will show you this and I will finish off. 1 second. Azure instance link migration. I was reading all this during this time, so I was surprised to see that there are these many things. Azure instance link, Azure managed instance link. It's called as. It's like how many things that you want to grab from me. It is up to you. Okay.
How are you keeping up with all these things? God knows.
It's just the interest because I want to differ from others. That is the main motto for me. I don't want the regular approach. See, I can just show you, like I can open my local SSMS and I can say, okay, migration is done with simple techniques. I don't want that to happen. And that's why I took this risk of Azure MI also, because I will come to know so many things by creating MI. I will get to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
n number of things. It's just 60,000 or 1 lakh. It's okay for me. But the things what I'm going to get along with me is of
Yeah, that's an immense knowledge base.
yeah. Oh, I didn't draw this from where it got. Okay, so link feature for Azure Managed Instance. This is very, very, very new feature, and this supports only from 2016, 2019, and 2022. Okay, even 2017 is not there. See this again. See the twist. See the twist. 2016 is there. 2019 is there. 2017 is not there. Okay, and if you know all these different scenarios, and if you are in real time in your on-prem, and if you talk about the scenarios like this, just imagine the kind of impression what you have in your office, at your office, right? So you keep all the different things in your mind, okay, for the moment. And I'm going to create one good Excel sheet, and I will talk about each and every scenario crystal clearly, so that you can make use of those scenarios in your environments. Don't go with the regular answers like maybe lock shipping or backup restore, or I don't want that answers. I don't want to hear that answers. Come up with new features. They are already available. Just try to make use of it and show your power. I'll just talk about this and I'll finish off. There is a new
One thing,
feature.
sorry to disturb you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind, if you get a time, can you just give us the idea to the process where to start and how like now we are mixing up all the things and we don't know the start and end.
Understood. This is not our regular class, right? So this is
Yeah, yeah, I got it.
just to show you like there are so many things in a migration itself. Okay, so
So
I am ready to show you from the scratch. So from 15th,
the
when I
thing
start.
is, even when I have this Twitter account, I get notifications. I once in a while I'll read, but I mix up things, so I don't know path to start and end. Which part I need to start, which path I need to
So
continue from there. That's why.
my plan is I wanted to show you from the scratch. So firstly, I will go with the simple things like backup and restore and
Okay,
backpack, DACpack, simple things. First, we'll cover the basic things. And once we are done with the basic things, then we'll go to the advanced things like
sure,
DMS, Data Studio, and all those things.
sure, sure.
Okay, 1 second. 1 second. So where am I? Yeah, this part. This feature, I'm just talk about this feature and I'll wind off. Imagine you want to configure, um, what can I say? Always on between on-prem and managed instance. Okay, a configuration of always on between managed instance and on-prem from your environments. It is possible, but it is only supported on for these versions. And the one good feature about this thing is it will configure distributed availability groups internally. It will not appear for you in any of the windows. It will configure internally. That is first thing. Second thing is, what I liked about this feature is, you want to migrate from on-prem to MI, not now, down the line, maybe after 4 months or 5 months, they wanted to carry out some testing and all. During that time of 4 or 5 months, you can still create this and you can keep as is. Okay, it will work as is. And once you are finalized with the things, you can just perform my cutover in just fraction of a seconds. Okay, so that's the beauty about this feature. I think this feature is not being used at all, at all. And I'm saying at all. No one knows this feature. To be very frank, no one is aware of this feature. So this is how it works. So it will create a link. It will create a link from on-prem to Azure MI, and will apply the logs continuously. I mean, behind the scenes, it will create distributed availability groups. So that is a different story. So it will keep on applying these logs internally. And once you are ready for the final cutover, you can just cut this link and you can make this as primary. That's the beauty. So no one has made use of this feature. We can make use of this. As I told you that distributed availability groups is the technology that is being used here. The underlying technology is this thing. So this is the last thing that I wanted to show you guys. So after all the different migrations, what we have, finally, we are going to cover this Azure Managed Instance Link feature. Okay, this will be the final migration setup what I have with me. So there are so many different types of migrations that I'm going to cover. Apart from this, I wanted to cover Azure Active Directory and Azure SQL. Of course, it is still pending, and the monitoring part. The monitoring is same like migration. It's a very big topic. So I wanted to cover monitoring also. So these are the things that are pending. Just imagine, I don't know, I am expecting like around maybe 1 hour, sorry, not 1 hour, 2 months for its completion. From now, when I start from August 15th, it will take 2 or 2.5 months, roughly. Maybe if I am able to complete this within that timelines, maybe it's okay, fine for me. Otherwise, it will take 2 months for me to complete all these things. This is the final thing that I'm going to cover, this thing. So if you just open your local SSMS also, you will see this. It will show you. I didn't explore this option at all, but recently when I came to know about this, I was literally surprised. Just 1 second, guys. I'll wind up the session. So thanks for your time, guys. So I just created one more mission here so that we'll get the real feeling of on-prem. So there are 2 missions in my on-prem and 1 domain controller. Everything is ready. So I'm just creating my MI today. So once it gets created, there are a number of things that we need to explore. For the moment, it is 25 minutes, but it will take 4 hours. Let it open. But I'm really excited. I don't know how I'm going to carry this and how I can make you understand. It is my job, but I will try to give my best. Come on. First, I will make a video on 2022 future. I will make that available in YouTube. You can watch out that, because I'm not going to cover that in our classes. I will share that with everyone. Oh God. This includes Azure Data Studio also. That's the reason it will take more time. I don't have my services running, I guess. Manju,
Yes, sir.
welcome back.
Thanks.
I missed you in my classes. I can say that.
For 10 days we went to trip.
Yeah. So let me show you that option. And I'll finish off. I know there are too many things, so I need to organize the things properly. Otherwise, it will be very clumsy. So just right click on any of the database. So this is what I'm talking about, guys. So even this is new for me. It is called as Azure SQL Managed Instance Link. See this option. This is available only from, I think SSMS version should be 18 point something, or 18 version. It should be 18 version. It should not be 17. If you go with 17, you will not see this option. This option is available only from SSMS 18, version 18. So this is what I'm talking about. This is possible, and if I say replicate database, it will ask for the Azure MI, and some things are there. See, it will create a managed instance link between our on-prem environment to Azure MI with the underlying distributed availability group technology. So this is how it works. Even I didn't create this, so I will show you this later. And for your just for your information, I've created a few databases. This is of 30 GB, 36 GB, and it has variety of information. This is being used in industries like TPCC and TPCH. It's called as benchmarks. For benchmarks, we'll create these databases. So I have one database with me. So you will get the real-time feeling. It's not a dummy database like test or AdventureWorks. So there are so many things inside this database. So these are the things that I'm going to cover. I'm very much excited. We got a break now for 1 month. I understood. I'm sorry for that, but I'm learning myself, and I will show you all the different things what I have with me. See, I am not good at preparing, documentation like brochure saying that these are the topics that I'm going to cover, because when it comes to real time, I can show you all the different things. Whatever that comes to me, I will definitely show all the different things what I have with me. So that is my problem. I'm not good at preparing the content. Many people are asking me for the content, but I don't have the content to show them up. But these are the things that I'm going to cover.
Vamsi, one question. Can we try that, like connecting managed instance, and then we can try this option managed link with another managed instance?
See, manage instance. So you mean to say,
Yeah, like 2016, 2019 instance we created, like a database we have created in the managed instance. And then on another managed instance, can we do the same, like manage link and do the failover and fill back?
okay, you mean to say from different MIs, would it be possible to do this option, right?
Yeah.
I need to check that. Once this MI gets created, right, I will connect to my MI machine and see if that option is available.
Okay.
I think technically it is not possible. So if you see the scenarios here, they just specified it for on-prem.
Yeah, it's like all the arrangement, right? In
Arrangement, they are saying
many
from,
things.
and one more thing, you don't know about this technology, and this technology doesn't need any Windows cluster. Okay, it doesn't need any Windows cluster, but still we can configure DAG. See how beauty it is. You don't need Windows clustering. Just imagine, without Windows clustering, we are going to create DAG. So this is something very, very interesting feature, guys. So I'm going to perform a deep dive on this topic for sure.
And Vamsi, do we need MI to MI failover? Anyway, it is underlying. We have one replica which is always available, right?
No need. See, the scenario comes to you. Say someone asks you to migrate a database from one MI to another MI. It happened for me. Let me show you that.
Because we, as per the document screenshot which you showed us, the link, it is already showing
yeah, this one. Or which one?
the replicas. Earlier you showed us this one for MI. Yeah, I think in PPT only.
Okay, 1 second. This is business continuity. This is something very different. Let me check where it is. This feature, this one, link
No,
feature.
not this one. Not this one. Even you remember when we are creating MI, initially there are two options: geo redundant and
geo replication. Yeah. Okay.
in that case it is like a DR for MI.
Yes.
So
See,
I'm just asking, is it required to have backup again for which already have backup,
okay.
right?
So thing is that is a very good question. Even I got that question to my mind. Why I need all these things? Because in MI we have multiple replicas available internally. So if something goes wrong, it will take care. That's absolutely fine. But thing is, it is only within one region. Okay, it is only bounded to one region. For example, West Europe or North Europe. That is
in that only, while selecting, I believe there are two options. With one is geo redundant option also is there. Generally, geo redundant is for
no, that is only for backups. So let me show you
backups.
that.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so you just missed that. thing. Let's take for example Azure SQL. Okay, let's go with Azure MI since you asked only about that. Azure MI single instance create. Okay, so if you see here, it is just asking for us to choose a region. So I just selected North Europe in that case. So it is not geo thing here. So we need geo replication only if we have a feeling that if something goes wrong to one region, say for example, North Europe got smashed bit of earthquake or some floods or whatever it is. So in that case, I have to opt for West Europe. If I have that option, then I can make use of it. If it is not there, imagine I have not opted for what is that geo failover. In that case, I can make use of backups. So in that case, if you see here at the bottom, I have these options. So if you choose that backups, there I can restore those backups, not me. I have to contact Microsoft to restore those backups for me in that region.
Yeah, got it.
That is the thing. So if you don't want to make use of your backups, and if you want auto failover groups between different regions, then we can think about that geo replication, what we have. Okay, and I got one scenario in my on-premises, in my real time. So where they asked me to restore MI database from one MI to another MI.
Okay.
So I got this scenario and I blog posted this long time back. So I got few errors as well because it is not possible to carry out from GUI because you will never get permissions, all the permissions in real time. So you have to rely on PowerShell or Azure CLI. So I made use of, I think I made use of Azure CLI if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So I made use of Azure CLI. And then I ran these commands to restore the database from one MI to another MI. So this request might come up for you also. I don't know, based on needs. That is possible. So this is one scenario what I can think about. Okay, guys. So I'm finishing off. So these are the things that I'm going to cover. So hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll cover all these different things, guys. I'm sure I'm having that confidence with me. Definitely, I will cover. If I'm not able to, I will take some other time, and definitely I will cover those things also. At least I will make a video available for you and you can watch that video. Okay, so let's catch on 15th of August. I think 15th August is holiday for us. I mean in India. So is it okay to start from 15th? I think it's at night time, right? So hopefully it should be fine for you.
No issues for me. Anyway, it's Monday, so
Yeah, from Monday.
so people
It's
will be
fine.
on home only.
Okay, guys. So I'm closing this now, and I will catch you. I will make a video today. Once this MI gets created, I will try to make some few videos. So please watch my YouTube channel also. I'm not asking you to subscribe and that thing. No, I'm not like that. I'm just keeping few contents out there. So if you are interested, just have a look on that as well.
Yeah, once you posted that, please
Yeah, I will
drop
post
us a
in
message.
WhatsApp group, so you can watch out that.
Sure. Okay. Thanks,
Yeah,
Vamsi.
yeah. Take care, guys. Catch you on
Thank you.
15th.
Yes, have a good day.
Yeah, bye bye.
Thank you, Vamsi.
Yeah, take care.